Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
A rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Shadows whispered in the wires, hidden hands behind the throne, built their kingdom out of silence, chained the world they thought they owned. Silent codes and stolen stories, truth was buried out of sight, but in the quiet hearts were beating, waiting for the spark of light. They thought we'd never see the mask behind the screen, but the cracks began to bleed, and we began to dream. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. We were ghosts inside their system, digital soldiers, quiet storms, turned the weapons of deception into signals to transform. Every lie became a beacon, every secret fed the flame, we're the chorus of the voiceless, calling out their hidden name. They thought we'd never know, but rivers find their flow, and seeds they tried to sow have grown and overflow. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. Dark to light. No more kings behind the curtain, no more pawns inside their game. We are fire, we are certain we'll erase their hidden name. Every tower built on lies will crumble, every shadow forced to see the sun. We are many, we won't stumble, we are rising, we've begun. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. Dark to light.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic start to their week and Christmas week. So Merry Christmas out there to everybody else, everybody out there in the world. I don't think we'll say it any other thing. No happy holidays, no Kwanzaa, no Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I hope everybody is doing well. And I got my stand-up here going on. Ho, 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 ho. I've been convincing children all week that I'm Santa Claus. And I'm like, oh, it grows miraculously on Christmas Eve. It goes like this. And I'm like, ho, 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 ho. I don't know. I like to have fun every once in a while. I hope everybody likes to have fun too. And we are starting the week off right, aren't we not? And just a lot of things happening. Today, Donald Trump made some pretty incredible announcements about the Trump class battleship. The guy's putting his name on everything he could possibly put his name on. And that's okay. I don't mind it because he's making some amazing changes to this country. He's making amazing changes to the world. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all sitting here. We want accountability. We understand what's at risk. We understand the 2026 midterm elections are coming up, and that if we don't have election reform, then we're pretty screwed. But if you just look at what Donald Trump's administration has done in the last 11 months, it's pretty damn miraculous. I can't be disappointed, although I do want accountability. I do want to rest. We're going to talk a little bit about all of that tonight. We're going to talk about the battleships, the BB-72 class that are coming out next, and what's on them, what they are comprised of, and what really this is about. Because there's something deeper in meaning about the announcement of new battle class, new battleships that the U.S. Navy is going to produce. Dan Scavino this weekend on X posted this one, which is the title name of the show right there. And it goes, light teaches us peace and empathy. Dark teaches us courage and resilience. Dark to light. Huh. Interesting, Dan. And I think this is indicative of what I've been saying over the last week with Donald Trump's December 17th address to the nation. The address to the nation was very direct. It was very prompt. It was more of a general barking orders at his people before going into battle. To me, was signifying that, hey, we weren't ready to take on the deep state. We weren't ready to take on the globalists. We weren't ready to go out there and begin this fight until now. Now we are ready. And I think that when we start to look back in retrospect at this time frame in history, we'll understand a lot of what that meant. Because you got to remember, we came off of 4 years of Joe Biden, 4 years of the Joe Biden administration, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden was nowhere to be found. But we come off of 4 years of the Biden administration, which absolutely dragged our country down into the ditches, into the dirt. We were wounded. We were shot. We were depleted of ammunition. We didn't know how to fight. We couldn't fight. We had no energy, no strategic petroleum reserve. Remember, it was down to over 14%, under 14% when Joe Biden left office on our strategic petroleum reserve. So we couldn't engage in a multifaceted conflict at that point in time. So the Trump administration had to come in and they had to rebuild us back up, economically strong. We had to be militarily strong. We had to be morally and ethically strong. We had to have all of the right pieces on the chessboard out there and positioned correctly for the next moves, which come about with checkmate. So I think that when we look back at last week, December 17th, 2025, that was indicative of Donald Trump coming out and saying, hey, we're healthy. We're strong. We're ready. It's time. Now, how all this is going to unfold, your guess is as good as mine. I got people I talk to who are telling me certain things, and I'm like, okay, well, we're waiting, right? We're waiting. But I think that there's some certain things that are true. And this might be a longer game than we anticipated, or this could be over in one day. I am kind of shooting that we might see some things right around the corner here that are going to happen very, very fast. Now, Ed prosecutor, lawyer, attorney, Ed Martin. And if you guys don't know Ed Martin over there, he's the pardon attorney for the DOJ under the Trump administration. He put out this doozy yesterday, and this is indicative of a Q post, if you guys did not know. And this is, he says, fly, Eagles, fly. The Taylor survival. Eagles ride storms, lesser birds fear. I love this. I love this here. It is so filled with so much. Now, I came out there and I said, oh, Eagles ride storms, fly, Eagles fly. Q180, if you want the reference. Today, info pertaining to Epstein's connection to LDR. Now, Q180, let me go out there and pull that. I didn't have that pulled up for some reason. But let me go get Q180 real quick. And we can take a look at this and see what I'm talking about here. And we're going to pop this right there. And I got to go back over to my magic screen. I got to pick this guy up, Q180. Okay, let's bring this up here. Q180. Why is LDR chatting up Eagles on Twitter? What U.S. president was nicknamed Eagle by the United States Secret Service? Fly, Eagles, fly. So this came out on the same day that we have information pertaining to inForce de Rothschild, which I've already written about before in a long Substack. inForce de Rothschild, as a Deutsche Bank advisor, managed Epstein's financial operations. The bank's role in Epstein's activities led to a lawsuit before Judge Esther Salas. Her son was killed just before the trial by ex-agent from Kroll Associates called the CIA of Wall Street. Now, why is this important? Because it was inForce de Rothschild that introduced Jeffrey Epstein to a guy by the name of Bill Clinton, who was president at that time. Jeffrey Epstein, if you didn't know, we'll get into this towards the end of the show, he was an intermediary middleman. He was a financial middleman for intelligence agencies and a financial handler to illicit crime money. How do you move money from illicit crime activities, human trafficking, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, into legitimate business structures? How do you wash that money? Jeffrey Epstein was that point. Jeffrey Epstein was that person hired by the intelligence agencies. He worked with MI6, he worked with Mossad, he worked with the CIA, and this was his job. And in the midst of this time, he collected massive amounts of compromise on these people, because you have to do that when you're a handler and you're trying to control people to a long end, as well as when you're skimming off the top. Now, what does this mean? I think that we're getting a storyline that is being presented here. Today, Bill Clinton's team. Statement from Angela Urana, spokesman for former President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton said today, the Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes a clear legal duty on the U.S. Department of Justice to produce the full and complete record the public demands and deserves. However, what the Department of Justice has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear: someone or something is being protected. We do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this: we need no such protection. Accordingly, we called President Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing photograph of Bill Clinton. This includes, without limitation, any records that may exist and are subject to disclosure under the Act, Public Law 119 through 38, enacted November 19, 2025, including grand jury transcripts, interview notes, photographs, and findings by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, referenced under oath to Congress by President Trump's first Attorney General. Refusal to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion of the Department of Justice actions to date are not about transparency, but about insinuation, using selective releases to imply wrongdoing about individuals who have already been repeatedly cleared by the very same Department of Justice over many years under presidents and attorney generals of both parties. In other words, Bill Clinton is calling the bluff. He's saying, hey, there's a lot of talk going out there that I'm somehow implicated in this. If you have the evidence, come out. Let me see the evidence. Put the evidence out there. But it's pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and obviously underage women. Now, Bill Clinton must be under the assumption that maybe he did use Jeffrey Epstein to acquire women, but none of them were underage. I don't know. This is his insinuation. Why would Bill Clinton make this move? Now, Donald Trump came out today and said that it's really sad what we're seeing with the Epstein file release. There's good people that are getting their reputations ruined. He goes, one of them is Bill Clinton. He goes, I'm friends with Bill Clinton. I've been friends with Bill Clinton for a long time. That's kind of odd. And then he says, he goes, Bill is a good guy, and I don't think that he did anything wrong here. Well, that's interesting. Because now if you go to the Q boards or the research done by a lot of different people, a lot of the victims of Epstein, they claimed that Bill Clinton was having sex with underage girls. And Bill Clinton's clearly stating, show me the evidence. Now, one thing I didn't see is I didn't see Bill Clinton say, hey, you're going to have a massive defamation lawsuit on your hand, Department of Justice, if you don't do this. Now, that's interesting. What do I think's going on here? It's what I've been telling you since minimum March of this year. That the Epstein stuff is not about child pedophilic rings. So one thing to remember, Bill Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton's chief of staff, and then Hillary Clinton's chief of staff was a guy by the name of John Podesta. John Podesta, through the WikiLeaks emails, we see clearly was running some type of child sex trafficking ring. Why the hell would Bill Clinton have to go to Epstein for that? Maybe the Epstein stuff isn't necessarily what a lot of people believed it to be. And what I also think Bill Clinton is doing is he's calling it out. We need no such protections. I don't think he's talking about himself. He's talking about, I know Epstein's still alive. If you got something, pull it out because we want to know. We're going to get more into what the Epstein files were really about. What I've been talking about for months. What other people are confirming right now. Now, was Jeffrey Epstein a prolific child predator? What does the evidence say? The evidence says that he would go out there and acquire 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old girls to come to his house and give massages, which he then would trick or engage and rape into sexual explicit activities for himself. We've seen evidence that substantiates that he did that for other people as well. To the extent, I think that is the extent. That is the only information and evidence we have. Now, is that horrific? Is that horrible? Is that bad? Is that evil? Yeah, absolutely it is. But attributing Jeffrey Epstein to the lowest levels of satanic ritual abuse that we saw from Podesta and connecting that to Podesta is not the same thing. I'm setting the narrative here, okay? Why they wanted Epstein dead, why they wanted Epstein removed, why people don't want the Epstein stuff to come out is much more interesting than you can ever imagine. We're going to get into that towards the end of the show here, but just keep that in mind. I got to get a drink here. Woo! It's getting hot in here. I got a good heater now. And yes, I turned on the salt lamp. For that one person the other day said, you need to turn on that salt lamp. I turned on the salt lamp. Salt lamp is on. All right. General Michael Flynn yesterday. We missed this during Q After Hours. I caught it afterwards. Warfare 101. He says, introducing strategic ambiguity. He goes, the infiltration of strategic ambiguity by adversaries, foreign and domestic, where some parts are true and legal, while other parts are false and illegal as a technique of an objective propaganda campaign. I would also call this kind of a limited hangout. He said the CCP are masters at this form of warfare, and so are a few select nations along with certain and well-known malign actors, foreign and domestic. Discernment is a key intellectual framework to maintain because your snap judgments will be wrong if you don't consider consistency of information over time along the nature of the environment we're currently facing. Fifth generation warfare is very real, and so is the CCP's doctrine for unrestricted warfare. Understanding the competitive nature of each is vital for our nation's success at this moment in U.S. history. I'll admit that I may screw up certain issues, but I understand war, and we are in the middle of one right now. Psalms 23 tags a bunch of people, and then he puts two images out there, the cross and the flag, and then the perched eagle. Now, what's interesting about this post, timestamp 8:33, direct contacts and correlation, message received, General. And that post, March 3rd, 2018, post 8:33, reality is labeled as conspiracy. You are made to feel crazy. You are told to obey. You are sheep to them, pawns to be sacrificed. Remember, we are winning. Do not trust what you read. Mind warfare. Up is down, left is right. Boom. Q. And I do believe that that is a direct comm to all of us, you and me, all in one. And I think what he's trying to tell us here is that there is active psychological warfare campaigns, influence operations going on right now. That there is a fracturing of MAGA, which we'll talk about in a second. And do not believe what you read. Do not believe everything that you're told. This goes back to the motto that we have at the Red Pill Project. Never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are or what authority they profess or possess, unless you can prove it through your own discernment, your own will, your own research, your own inquiry, your own investigation, and through your own volition. And this is so true right now because we are at the midst of this warfare, and is being waged on every single human being on this planet simultaneously. There's a good reason for it, because when we start to look at the future, it's not about trillions of dollars, it's about power. And I don't mean energy to fuel your vehicle. I mean the control of technology, which is far beyond the scope of anything we've ever imagined. And the person who holds that power and wields that power becomes the most powerful person, not on this planet, but probably within this solar system. I shit you not that this is what this is about, guys. I've been saying this for a long time. This is what this is about. This is not about money anymore. This is about power and control. General Flynn, again, on X, he put out a Substack, which I'm going to read to you here in a minute. He goes, a Christmas that almost wasn't. There was a Christmas manufacturer to display windows and marketing campaigns, bright and hurried and quick and forgotten. So I'm going to go ahead and read this Substack to you because I think it's well worth it, because it plays directly into something that we've been talking about over the last week, of potential action on Christmas Day. We did that decode last week. And there he goes. We have General George Washington at Valley Forge right there. He says, there is a Christmas manufacturer to display windows and marketing campaigns, bright, hurried, and quickly forgotten. There is the Christmas our founders knew, quiet, severe, inward, and bound to something far older and more demanding than comfort. They did not inherit a nation wrapped in a ribbon. They brought one into being through cold hands, empty stomachs, and resolute faith. When George Washington crossed the Delaware on Christmas night, there were no speeches to stir the heart and no crowds to bear witness. There was no certainty of success. There was only an obligation. The men who followed him were unpaid, undeferred, and freezing. Many had no shoes. Some left blood in the snow behind them. Yet they crossed anyways, because surrender would have extinguished a fragile and unprecedented idea that free people would govern themselves under God, not kneel before kings. To the founding fathers, the nativity was not a decorative tradition or a gentle fable to soften the season. It was a moral framework. The image of power entering the world through humility rather than conquest reinforced a principle they believed essential to any free society: that legitimate authority arises from virtue, restraint, and service, not coercion. A child born without wealth, title, or force affirmed their conviction that liberty depends on leaders who govern themselves before governing others. In the Nativity, they saw a rebuke of tyranny and a reminder that freedom endures only when law is grounded in moral order. It was not a story that excused them from duty, but one that bound them more tightly to it, calling them to sacrifice comfort for conscience and power for responsibility. John Adams warned that the Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people and wholly inadequate for any other. This was not rhetoric, it was realism. The founders believed freedom required restraint, and restraint required virtue. Christmas returned that truth to them each year, reminding them that rights severed from responsibility decay into disorder, and liberty without discipline dissolves into ruin. Well, Europe crowned monarchs beneath cathedral ceilings. Americans prayed in meeting houses and shivered in winter camps. While empires celebrated pageantry and permanence, the founders measured success by endurance. They did not ask what the nation could consume, but what it could withstand. Christmas at Valley Forge passed without celebration, but not without meaning. In the cold and deprivation, faith became a discipline rather than a comfort, sharpening resolve instead of softening it. The men endured hunger, illness, and winter's cruelty, not because relief was promised, but because duty demanded it. To the founders, providence favors courage strengthened by preparation and prayer proven through action. That Christmas affirmed a hard truth at the heart of the American experiment. Liberty would be preserved not by ease or optimism, but by sacrifice willingly borne and carried forward when turning back would have been far easier. Set that against our own age. We speak endlessly of rights and rarely of obligations. We celebrate abundance while forgetting the discipline that made it possible. We demand comfort from institutions erected by men who accept hardships as a price of liberty. The founders understood that a republic is not sustained by habit or inheritance, but by choice. Its fragility was intentional, a safeguard that required each generation to reaffirm it with clarity, discipline, and sacrifice. Christmas offered a rare pause from the clamor of public life, a moment when reflection displaced noise and the enduring truth could be remembered. Self-government survives only when free people are willing to bear its cost again and again. It was no accident that Washington chose Christmas night to act. He knew the enemy would be complacent. He also knew his own men needed more than rest. They needed meaning. They needed to believe that sacrifice still mattered, that history had not yet finished with them. So he gave them a Christmas not of comfort, but of consequence. That is the Christmas we have inherited, whether we acknowledge it or not. Not the one sold to us, but the one secured for us. A Christmas that asks, what are we willing to endure so that those who come after us may live free? This season, the most radical act is remembrance. To remember that liberty was forged in winter rather than comfort. To remember that faith without action is empty. To remember that self-government begins not in distant halls of power, but in the conscience of each citizen willing to uphold it. The founders did not give us a perfect nation. They gave us a demanding one. Every Christmas, it asks us the same question it asked them, quietly, relentlessly, without sentiment. Are you worthy of it? Merry Christmas. As Christmas approaches, I want to personally thank you for standing firm during a defining moment for our nation. We can feel it. Something fundamental is being tested, and the road ahead will demand courage and resolve. Your past support has helped push back and keep this fight moving forward when it mattered most. I'm grateful for your belief in our mission and for your willingness to stay engaged. As we reflect this Christmas on faith, sacrifice, and hope, please know that your role in this effort is deeply appreciated. The work isn't finished. The fight for our republic goes on, and together we press forward. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a strong New Year ahead. With gratitude, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, Michael T. Flynn. Profound. That was a general's reinterpretation of a general's night. And Christmas is now in the crosshairs once again. I talked about this last week, that what if on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we see unsealed indictments from grand juries across the country, and we see mass arrests, striking them at their most vulnerable moment. I think that it's a possibility. I think it could happen. I pray that it happens, because it would be a fantastic way to end the year of 2025. That on Christmas morning, indictments rang true throughout the United States of America. And you get John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all indicted on a grand conspiracy. John Solomon reporting yesterday, ex-FBI agent says Bondi has slam dunk conspiracy case against Obama feds for election meddling. This isn't crazy. This is really, really happening. But then you have to heed the words of Michael Flynn before that, talking about the limited hangout, talking about the mixing of truth and falsification. Tony Saruga said earlier this week, He said the Black Vault has successfully obtained a new release of previously heavily redacted documents, which sheds new light on the military manual concerning Joint Psychological Operation Task Force headquarters training. The document, originally requested under the Freedom of Information Act request and partially released in 2014, contained multiple redactions under the FOI exemption, primarily concerning internal personnel rules and practices of the agency. However, following a 2016 case filed by the Black Vault to request a review under 16 F 1727, the document has now been released in full with no redactions. What does it show? Well, let's listen to John Solomon talk about what it shows, because this is the truth. This is what General Flynn was talking to you about. This is what's going on right now. And it's not only going on with your own government doing it to you, whether it's the Trump administration and the hidden deep state actors in there, or it's the deep state intelligence apparatus, but it's foreign nations. Listen.
Sat across from an intelligence agent, now retired, very senior. He looked me in the eye and said, the truth of the matter is we took the playbook for psychological operations and information warfare that we would use against our enemies, and we turned it against the American people to undo the 2016 election and to make sure they didn't elect Donald Trump in 2020. Now, that is a senior intelligence officer with more than 30 years of experience, a patriot who served in some of the most dangerous parts of the world, and he understood that the tactics of making something fake look real were ripped right out of our intelligence communities. Our intelligence agencies not only harmed Donald Trump, they were harming the American public, the national security interests of the American public.
Make more sense now? The last decade has been one big psyop. That's why it's so important that you and I have these discussions every night, because what we're actually doing is we're filtering through fact and fiction. We're filtering through the psychological warfare tactics and operations that are being perpetuated on the American people day in and day out. And we are analyzing them, we're filtering them, and we're coming up with what is really happening in the world beside all of the nonsense in fiction. And I appreciate you for joining me. Let me see here. We're doing pretty well here, man. What's up, people? Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. I've only watched one Christmas movie so far, and it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, because it's the one I watch every year. I'm going to go ahead and run just one little guy here real quick. We got to pay some bills. I like these guys. I put my order in, so hopefully I get them soon. All right, this episode is brought to you by Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks, a satisfying, discreet, and great-tasting way to curb cravings anytime, anywhere. Perfect for flights, events, restaurants, and anywhere smoking and vaping are banned. Zippix satisfies both nicotine cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit with 6 long-lasting flavors in 2 milligram or 3 milligram strengths, proudly made in the USA, and one of the most cost-effective options out there. Not into nicotine? Try our caffeine or B12 infused picks for a boost. Zip more, smoke less. Visit zippixtoothpicks.com and get 10% off your first order with code CREATOR. Must be 21 or over. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. And for everybody out there, you can find that directly on our Rumble. You can find that in our Rumble description box, in the chat box, and by going back and following that on the screen. Now, going back into what John Solomon was talking about. Excuse me. I'm gonna show you an active psychological warfare operation that is going right now with active intelligence operators that know what they're doing at play. It's a post I put out there the other day. When a populist movement devolves into blind loyalty, crony cultism, and sycophantism, it stops being populist. It becomes a closed power structure, one that exists to protect itself rather than reform the system it promised to dismantle. MAGA is approaching that threshold, not because of President Trump himself and not because of something grassroots supporters did, but because money and power aligned with the movement and quietly reshaped it. There's a basic principle in economics. It's called Tinstoffel. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing comes without cost. Apply that principle to politics, especially to a campaign that raised billions of dollars, and an uncomfortable truth emerges. A $10 donation given by millions of Americans in pursuit of justice, accountability, and the America First agenda does not carry the same weight as hundreds of millions of dollars that brought halted declassification, insider placement within the administration, and the creation of enforcement mechanisms that sever donors rather than voters, that serve donors rather than voters. This is not a coincidence. It is incentivized structure. MAGA is fracturing because a cult of access and money has taken control, one that no longer aligns with America First principles, yet holds the levers of influence, narrative, and power. That is how populist movements fail, not from the outside, but from within. Now, you're probably asking myself, well, that is exactly what is happening. There's certain people that have influence over the politics of the Trump administration, and I don't deny that. But that's what $250 million buys you. Well, what about the $1 billion raised by individual American patriots? How loud are you? How loud are those same people that donated $10, $100 to Donald Trump's administration? How loud are you and unified in your voice? Because here's what happens. Those people, those organizations, those donors, Big Pharma, Big Tech, Miriam Adelson, when they donate hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's campaign, they don't just give him a $100 million check and say, good job, Donald Trump, go get him. No. They are active and progressive against Donald Trump. Hey, you owe me. You got to, I want my shit. We paid for you to be there. You got to pay it back. Not only that, is they do active psychological warfare operations on Trump supporters to fortify and reinsure their agenda. Go look. Now, how do you change that? How do you ensure that MAGA doesn't fracture, but instead MAGA unites and comes together and overwhelms that donor base with a support base? It comes back to unity. It comes back with aligning with a moral and ethical framework and coming together as the American people. The same way that we canceled Budweiser, the same way we canceled Cracker Barrel and Target. It's the same way that we go out there and we express our power to the President of the United States, to the federal government, and say, we fucking demand accountability today. Like, we're going to ensure that you don't sleep until this happens. And I assure you, they hear you. They hear you loud and clear right now. But maybe we're just not loud enough. Maybe they're waking up. Maybe they're waiting for the American people to wake up and reassert their authority over them. I talked about the two power bases that exist in Washington, D.C. You have the lobby, with money, power, influence. And then you have the people, quiet, silent, only get mad when it truly affects them. This side will always win over this side as long as this side never reasserts their authority. At the end of the day, when we say that Donald Trump is in office to give the power back to the American people, that can only happen if and only if the American people take the fucking power back. And if and only if the American people are ready to reassert their authority. See, there is a fourth branch of government. That fourth branch of government is the people of the United States of America. We always make this analogy and say, if this was 1910 or 1912, we would have tarred and feathered those politicians. Damn right. What changed? Well, we became more civilized. No, we didn't. What changed? Well, the laws. I mean, it's illegal. It was illegal then. What changed? See, I'm not saying that we need to go out there and tar and feather politicians, but we need to be damn mad as if we were going to. And we need to come together with the same power, grit, and force, and structure and organization as if we were going to. Because it's only when that we hold Washington, D.C. accountable, we hold our states accountable, that this nonsense ends. And see, I truly believe that the Trump administration are waiting. They're waiting for the American people to reassert their power. Sorry, guys, that wasn't supposed to be up there, but Merry Christmas. They're waiting for the American people to reassert their political authority. They're waiting for the fourth branch of government to rise back up and say, hey, hope you missed us. We're back. The American people are now in control. That's what General Flynn is trying to show us all. That General Washington could have never have went into battle and won in Trenton, could have never have won at Valley Forge, if it wasn't for the American people who believed in the American dream, who believed in a sovereign nation and freedom for all people. Donald Trump cannot win a war against the globalists, against the deep state, a war against China, unless he has Americans who willfully come up, rise up, willing to fight, willing to sacrifice and say, let's rock and roll. I'm all in for sovereignty. I'm all in for freedom. The United States of America will never be rid of the infiltration in the heart of Washington, D.C. unless the American people go up and say, this is done. Now we want accountability and we're not leaving until this happens. What do I mean by that? We're not leaving. It's metaphorical more so, but it has to come with warning. It has to come with threat. We have that ability as American citizens to go out there and tell our government, there's going to be consequences if you don't fucking do something. If Tina Peters is not out of prison within 30 days, there's going to be consequences. And then they go, well, what kind of consequences are going to be? Fuck around and find out. That puts the pressure on them. And we have millions upon millions of Americans who are going, posting every day, we need to get Tina Peters out of jail and she's suffering. Oh my God. Yeah, she is. But why isn't that million people coming out there in one common voice and accord, getting on Zoom calls and saying, okay, we're going to do a grassroots campaign on December 27th. And we're all going to get together and we're going to have Zoom calls across the nation, every 50 states. And we're going to coordinate one event on one day. And we're going to repeat that event at the same time every day until our government does something. And we're going to bring about consequences on that. And we're going to put out a demand to President Trump, to the Department of Justice, to the state of Colorado, to Governor Polis. Release Tina Peters immediately or face the consequences. You have 30 days. The next day, still not released, 29 days and counting. The next day, 28 days and counting. When you get down to day one, guess what happens? You get millions of patriots flying into the state of Colorado. It can happen. And it should happen. That's fuck around and find out. Because the moment that they start seeing millions of patriots driving into Colorado, flying into Colorado, even hundreds of thousands of patriots, guess what happens? Tina Peters gets moved to a federal prison. Tina Peters gets released. Because that's the power the American people have. And that's the power that Donald Trump is trying to remind you of. Roger Stone, AmFest. I like Roger Stone's. Roger Stone at AmFest. Let's listen to what he has to say. A powerful message here.
Not the past, but there is one matter we have to clean up. It has now been 156 days since the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, exposed through all of the declassified documents that the Russian collusion hoax was the greatest single dirty trick in American politics. It was an abuse of power in which the full authority of the United States government was used to topple a duly elected president. But more precisely, there was a seditious conspiracy that was born in the Oval Office in 2016 with Barack Obama present, Joe Biden, Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor, Vice President Biden, as I say, CIA director, Islamic convert and communist CIA director John Brennan, the FBI director James Comey. This list goes on. My question is a simple one. It is not about revenge and retaliation. It is not about retribution. It is about accountability and justice.
It is about accountability and justice. 100%. The time is now. All right, we're going to get into the next part of the show. I got about half the show left still in news. A lot of things to talk about. Venezuela, Russia, Epstein, technology. Excuse me. We're going to talk about technology tonight. Got an itch. Hold on. The chats are off the hook. Glad to see that. I got a few different Rumble rants I wanted to acknowledge. Let me acknowledge these real quick. My Doe Eyes $5 Rumble rant. Josh, that joke was dark last night. I'm probably going to hell for laughing at it. Merry Christmas. I know it's a pretty dark one, right? But hey, too soon? I don't think so. And if you're wondering what joke that was, I'm not going to say it. Andy Pearson, $5 Rumble rant. Christmas cheer snowball. I am Schaefer 1221. Will you have to throw a mud ball in your 80 degrees? So Andy Pearson trying to get a snowball fight, $5 snowball fight going on Rumble. Love it. Appreciate you guys. Denise Volbracht gifted 5 subscriptions to Red Pill subscribers. Awesome. Thank you so much, Denise. I appreciate you guys. And I think we had one more I saw in there. And guys, I appreciate all the support. This is completely self-funded operation. There is just me, only me, and I do everything here. It's all self-funded, and I still have time to get on Badlands twice a week. LM Evans, $50 Rumble rant. Merry Christmas, Josh. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you so much, LM Evans. Appreciate that $50 Rumble rant. You guys are amazing, awesome. Thank you for all the support. That's it for Rumble rants. And, you know, Donald Trump, when you went back, well, actually, hold on. I wanted to do something else before we got into the next part. So, a few different things. Number one is the music that you heard in the beginning of the show. Yes, that is Guardians of Truth. That is my band, I guess, if you want to call it. I wrote a lot of this music. I wrote the lyrics of the music. I wrote some of the music that's played in there, the guitar pieces, built all that out with AI. Amazing stuff. Pretty cool. You can get that music at redpillsmusic.com, redpillsmusic.com, or you can find it on Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, Google, YouTube. Just search Guardians of Truth. You should find that. A few different things. We do have that crypto course that is available on our merch shop. You can find that at redpills.tv/course. redpills.tv/course if you're interested in getting into cryptocurrency, as well as if you just go to shop.redpills.tv, shop.redpills.tv. That's our merch store. I do have some new merch coming out here at the start of the next year. Some pretty cool ones. So pay attention to that coming out here relatively soon. Or is this the crypto course? Did I have that wrong? Hold on. Let me see here. I might put the wrong link out there. Nope, just use the course one. Yep, just use Repill Project, redpills.tv/course. That's the right one. If you guys go to our website, there's lots of ways to help support us on the website. And I want to pull this up there because sometimes it can be confusing. People are like, oh my goodness. Not what I wanted to do right there. And if you go to the website, redpills.tv, which is right here, pull this over this way. If you don't realize it, I'm using my mouse to try to pull this. There it is. Okay. So one of the cool things about this is, number one, our Substack is linked up there. There is a great article written by Sean Morgan the other day. Trump launches first public fusion energy company. Great read. Highly recommend you go out there. You can subscribe over here. It's awesome. Plus, all my other Substack articles are right there, and you can click on them and go directly to Substack. But if you look at below the page, if you click on that, it's going to do this pop-up, and this is going to show you where you can follow us on all social media. We're really only active on X the Real Joshua Reed account, Facebook, and Rumble and YouTube. Sometimes True Social, but that's primarily where we're at. And then over here are ways that you can support us. If you wanted to support the Red Pill Project in any way, shape, or form, these are tax-free ways to support us right there. Give, Send, Go campaign, crypto, PayPal, Patreon community, which is socialredpill.com, or Cash App. So I appreciate everybody out there giving us that support. Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much. That's redpills.tv if you want to go on over there. All right. Let's go back in here. And I love this. If you go back to Donald Trump, like early 2000s, talking about the about the Iraq wars and Afghanistan wars, he says, why the hell are we going in there and not taking the oil? Why are we not taking the fruits of warfare? So today, Donald Trump was asked about the seized oil tankers in the Caribbean. Listen to what he says.
Speaking of Venezuela, oil, what are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it. We're keeping.
Where's it? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic?
Maybe we'll sell it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We're keeping the ships also.
Speaking of Venezuela,
dude, we're keeping the oil. We're keeping the ships too. That's called piracy. But he don't give a shit because we're at war. And he's saying, yeah, we're keeping it. They fucked around. They found out. It's ours now. I like the way he does business. President Trump has unveiled a new class of battleship, the Trump class ships. And yep, he's putting his name on everything, but I love this one.
Hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about. We have lasers where you aim the laser at a target, it just wipes it out. We're going to have, there'll be the most sophisticated lasers in the world, and the most sophisticated laser in the world will be on the battleships that we're building. They'll also carry the nuclear arms, sea-launched cruise missiles currently under development, which will be instituted pretty quickly, but they're under development, and they've proven to be extremely lethal.
They've proven to be extremely lethal. When did they test nuclear weapons to test out that they could be extremely lethal? I don't remember that test. Oh, you remember a few months ago, Donald Trump says we need to start testing nuclear weapons again? Guess they went out and tested their nuclear weapons, didn't they? Just saying. But the new battleship is the Trump class battleships will have hypersonic missiles, electronic rail guns, and lasers. And the lasers are directed energy weapons, just so you understand. It's not like Jewish laser beams. It's directed energy weapons. And I believe it's going to have 2 5-inch guns front with also a rail gun at the bow. It's going to have at the midship, I believe it's going to have 2 3-inch guns. And then it's going to have multiple Sea-Whiz and Sea-Ram systems on board with the Sea-Ram variant of the directed energy weapon, both aft and forward on both port and midship. It's going to have a VLS vertical launching system on the front aft of the front bow of the ship that is going to be able to carry SM-3s as well as these ballistic nuclear missiles that he's talking about. Most likely, I'm assuming Tomahawk variation. That's kind of what we already carry on destroyers. But he said ballistic missiles, so that means that these things can launch pretty high up there. I don't know about that because that's kind of interesting, launching that from a sea-based platform into space. Beyond me. Okay, we can do it from a submarine, so I guess we can do it there. But hypersonic missiles, this thing is going to be absolutely loaded. But when you start talking about this battleship, it's not about the ships. Let me reaffirm what I'm talking about here. The Trump class battleships, it's not about the battleships. It's cool. It sounds cool. It's like American muscle and firepower. Yeah. This conversation around the so-called Trump class battleships is missing the point. This isn't primarily about a new hull, a new weapons package, or nostalgia for big steel ships. It's about rebuilding industrial velocity. What's actually being signaled here is a shift back towards mass production capability, manufacturing discipline, and systems integration at scale, something the United States has allowed atrophy for decades. Modern naval power isn't constrained by ideas, it's constrained by throughput. Shipyards today are slow, fragmented, overregulated, and optimized for boutique, low-volume construction. Every ship becomes a custom science project, a cost balloon, timeline stretch, and readiness declines. A new class forces a reset. Standardized designs, modular construction, parallel manufacturing, workflow expansion and retraining, and domestic supply chain re-anchoring. That's how China does it, and if we ever want to exceed their productivity, we need to start today. Once you restore the ability to build fast, you unlock everything else. And there's a reason for this. You can't deploy advanced propulsion, directed energy weapons, autonomous systems, or next generation materials if you can't produce platforms efficiently. Technology without production capacity is just a PowerPoint slide. History shows this pattern clearly. World War II didn't start with miracle weapons. It started with shipyards. The arsenal of democracy wasn't magic. It was logistics at scale. Every major technological leap followed a manufacturing renaissance. This looks like the same prelude. First, you rebuild the factory floor, then you integrate new technologies incrementally. The ship itself is almost irrelevant. What matters is that the United States is signaling, we intend to be able to build again, fast, at scale, and under pressure. If that capability returns, everything downstream changes. Military readiness, technological deployment and speed, strategic deterrence, and economic leverage. This isn't about warship. It's about restoring the industrial spine required for whatever comes next. And whatever comes next won't announce itself until the factories are ready to receive it. What comes next? Remember I talked about trickle-down disclosure. Remember I talked about we have to build the new technological framework before technology can be developed. There it is. It's happening. All right. Let me see where we are at here. Go into here real quick. And the kid's good. My eyes hurt. I got some new blue blocker glasses I probably should put on during the show. All right. My friends over here at Emerald Med. I want to share a quick story about a family supporting this channel. Their father had a rare form of cognitive decline due to his military service that made him unable to work. Their mother had to stop working so she could care for him. Their sons discovered new U.S. Library of Medicine studies on various mushroom blends that could significantly support cognitive function. So they began creating a complex mushroom supplement based on that research, not just to help their own family, but to help others. They nearly quit after multiple setbacks, plus having their first big batch stolen. Fast forward, and now they speak at medical conventions nationwide. Their company is called Emerald Med, and their product massively supports brain, immune, blood, and heart function. Your cognitive function optimizes everything you do. You can get knees, heart, and kidneys replaced, but you can't get a new brain. So investing in the only brain you'll ever have for the rest of your life matters. If you want to support a company that supports our channel, free speech with their marketing, and you want to try a strong mushroom supplement, they're running a Christmas deal. Just click the link below and use the code 30% off today. It's currently the most concentrated mushroom gummy in the U.S. and has up to 400 compounds and is rich in vitamins plus minerals. With 6 formulas in one, it's like getting 6 supplements for the price of one. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med's mushroom gummies 30% off today. And that's on Rumble only, if you guys want to check that out. All right, Scott Bessent today. And, you know, when we start talking about the old guard and the deep state and dismantling that financial infrastructure. So I laid this out a few weeks ago. I talked about the hierarchy of how this operates. Like you have your top global elite that rule and control the world here. And they operate and run through institutions, think tanks, the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, the Chatting House, right? They operate through the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg groups, and then these operate and deploy through large financial institutions, NGOs, NPOs, family offices, government contractors, and then that integrates into governments around the world, which then change policy, regulation, and laws that filter down into banks and finance and regulatory agencies, and then that affects the people ultimately. But there's a part in that upper echelon to where illicit money is funneled in and then laundered and injected back into the system. And this is how they sustain and fund a lot of their power throughout everything. And Trump is cracking down on that. Listen to this.
At President Trump's direction, the Treasury Department is utilizing all tools to stop terrorist cartels, drug smugglers, and human traffickers. In line with that effort, I'm announcing a new data-driven border operation to help root out potential cartel-related money laundering from the U.S. financial system. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, known as FinCEN, is targeting over 100 money service businesses along the southwest border. Specifically, FinCEN is issuing 6 notices of investigation, dozens of examination referrals to the IRS, and over 50 compliance outreach letters. These businesses, which provide financial services outside of a formal bank, face elevated exposure to illicit activity, including money laundering related to drug smuggling and human trafficking. Thanks to Treasury's push for technology modernization, we are now able to implement data-driven approaches to identify potential bad actors. And when malicious activity is identified, make no mistake, we can and will take action to keep Americans safe. President Trump has made clear his commitment to securing our border, stopping the flow of deadly fentanyl, and eliminating Mexico-based drug cartels to protect Americans. Treasury will continue to use, expand advanced technology and every resource at its disposal to combat money laundering and make America safer.
In other words, defund the upper echelons, cut off the money flow from the cartels. What happens? Their criminal enterprises run dry. Smart, very smart. Not only that, is Donald Trump was actually asked today that, you said that you're going to do land operations against drug traffickers. Is that limited to Venezuela? And he said, no. He says, Colombia, they know what they're doing. They're making lots of cocaine. They're on the target list too. And he says, anybody else that's involved in this, they're on the target list, which is Mexico, lots of Latin America. Now, is he going to move on that? I think so. I think that the day that we watch the unseal of indictments against the deep state is the same day that these bombing campaigns begin. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Over the last 2 days in Florida, the Russian Special Envoy Kirill Dmitriev held productive and constructive meetings with the American delegation to advance President Trump's peace plan on Ukraine. The American delegation included Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and White House staff members Josh Gruenbaum. Russia remains fully committed to achieving peace in Ukraine. Russia highly values the efforts and support of the United States to resolve the Ukrainian conflict and reestablish global security. Now, this is interesting because Russia just recently evacuated the families of its diplomats in Venezuela. About a month ago, they evacuated all their generals from Venezuela. In other words, they're abandoning Venezuela. On the other side, Russia says it will not attack the EU or NATO and is ready to put it into a legal document, a legal framework to ensure that it never does happen. Now, why is Russia doing that? Because it is calling out the bullshit and hypocrisy of the EU and of NATO. It's saying, hey, we have no intention of doing any of this stuff. And we'll even bring this open into investigation and put it on paper. And so this is being planned by the U.S. and the Russian delegations. This is the type of things that they're talking about. And they set a trap for the EU. And this trap, a money one, is massive because now the EU is caught with its pants down, trying to basically put the bill of the war effort onto Russia that they've funded into Ukraine, and they don't have any way out. It potentially could compromise the integrity of the EU as a global organization, but also bring about the financial cataclysmic shock to the EU and London banking industry that begins its downfall. So it's huge. The Trump administration put Waltz on notice, Tim Waltz of Minnesota. Comply with Title IX or face enforcement. The Department of Education just escalated its fight with Minnesota. Secretary Linda McMahon announced that the feds have reached an impasse with the Minnesota Department of Education and Minnesota State High School League over Title IX violations. Governor Tim Waltz continues to put ideology above common sense and dignity. Today, we notified him in the Minnesota Department of Education. If they do not reverse course, this case will be recommended for reinforcement action. The Office of Civil Rights issued violation notices back in September 2025. Minnesota was asked to sign a voluntary resolution agreement. The state refused to respond or negotiate. Now the clock is ticking. If no resolution is reached within 10 calendar days, enforcement action begins. That could mean suspension, termination, refusal of federal funding, or referral to the DOJ. Waltz made trans athletes and girls' sports a centerpiece of his political brand. Now the federal government is calling his bluff. And what does that mean? You could see indictments by the DOJ of Tim Waltz for this. Huge. Hey, huge. Now, this is kind of interesting. I love this. So, Israeli foreign minister calls on Jews worldwide to move back to Israel. Wait a minute. Wait a fucking minute here. Isn't this exactly what someone literally just told you a few weeks ago after the Australia attack? Remember in my post, it's going to be biblical right here? The ingathering of the exiles, the kibbutz galiyot, it's about to happen. I said, in Jewish theology, the return of the Jews to Israel, known as the Aliyah, is explicitly prophetic. It is rooted in repeated biblical promises that God would gather the Jewish people from exile and restore them to their land. I posted this December 14th, right there, December 14th. And now what are we seeing today? Israeli foreign minister calls on Jews worldwide to move back to the Aliyah. So I believe that the false flag in Australia, done by most likely Israeli intelligence, Mossad, was done to instigate the Aliyah, the return back to Israel, the grand call of the Israels around the world back to Israel. Because Israel is getting shafted on their greater Israel agenda because of Donald Trump going in there and basically negotiating a 2 or 3 state solution. They know that Turkey is part of the ISF soldier framework that's going to sit in Israel and overwatch Gaza. They don't like that. And it basically dismantles all of the greater Israel that Netanyahu has been working for 30 years. So they're going to work around this. They're going to call everybody back into Israel, and they're going to wage a massive war within the Middle East. That's their plan. I laid it out. Now you're seeing it happen. Ta-da! All right, let's get into the Epstein stuff here. I said, if you think Epstein is being covered up to protect pedos, you are not paying attention. The rabbit hole goes much deeper. Epstein didn't traffic children the way many people think. He wasn't providing children for parties or rampant pedophilia like John Podesta and his brother. Once you get past this fact, then you can begin to understand what was really going on. So, my back hurts. Mario Newall posted this earlier, and I had something to say about it. But he says, a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web of the Epstein files. A lot of Democrats being caught up in, like Larry Summers, head of Harvard. Now he's been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. He was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. This is from Trump. I never went there, by the way, but a lot of people did go there. Summers served as Treasury Secretary under Clinton, president of Harvard, and director of the Obama's National Economic Council. He's being purged from every board over Epstein's connection. That's not just another name in the files. That's institutional collapse at its highest levels. That's just one name and what's coming about from the Epstein files. But here, see how this works? The interesting part you will begin to see is that there was not rampant pedophilia, as many suspect. This was something else entirely. Epstein was not killed to keep him quiet on a multi-level compromise. Shit, everyone in DC already has a copy. He was killed because of him and Ghislaine found what the deep state wanted and wouldn't give them access to it. This is why Ghislaine is still alive. She is actually the mastermind. So Jason Giorgiani, which I kind of just recently are getting into, is confirming a lot of what I'm saying here. Listen to this.
They're interested in Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
They're interested in eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
They're interested in anti-gravity. What does that look like to you? And answer me this question. If Jeffrey Epstein had access to the deepest layer of the American deep state, where we have ongoing electrogravitics programs, where the truth about Atlantis is already known, and where eugenics research is probably already also being conducted in underground facilities, why would he be running some ghetto operation to replicate it himself? You follow? Like, if you're trying to figure out how a UFO flies, it means you don't have access to the ones being built by Lockheed.
Right.
If you're got some ranch out there and you have to create a modeling agency to funnel women out there to this ranch, and you happen to have keycard access to an evolutionary biology program at Harvard, and you're going to figure out how to enhance some fetuses and ghetto style impregnate these women with them, it means you don't have access to the deep underground military facilities where cutting edge eugenics research is probably taking place. So
I think he was trying himself to achieve parity.
Yes. Yeah. Not even parity, something, some kind of foothold.
It's a little deeper than all of that. And I'll explain this in a second. But let's listen to the next video. Tip of the iceberg right here.
The FBI and the CIA have been engaged in a power struggle since the days of J. Edgar Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole books have been written about it.
Yep.
So if the FBI wants somebody, they don't always get them. Because CIA, although it's not supposed to be operating domestically, does plenty of domestic operations. Right. And so does NSA. And so, FBI has severe limitations on what it can manage. They wanted the UFO file too, and they couldn't get it. There's evidence of that, of Hoover trying to get a hold of the UFO files. So the FBI UFO files are about how the FBI can't get a hold of the UFO files. Okay? Anyway, so evolutionary dynamics, Harvard. Alan Dershowitz, Trump's lawyer, was also very close to Epstein. And he says that the stuff Epstein used to say about genetics freaked him out because it sounded like Nazi eugenics talk. All right, so one Jew saying about the other Jew, this shit he used to talk about genetics sounded like the Nazis to me. I don't know what he was up to, but it didn't sound good. And it was about eugenics, creating using genetic engineering. And by the way, Jeffrey Epstein funded the research that led to CRISPR. Our CRISPR, state-of-the-art genetic engineering, that research was funded by him too. Okay? So he wanted to basically implant these CRISPRed fetuses into these women on Zorro Ranch and breed a kind of super race. And interestingly enough, all the women who were being used for that, and the majority of the models that were being funneled through his modeling agency and brought onto the island and so forth, were of Nordic phenotype. And that fact is particularly interesting if you line it up next to what Ghislaine Maxwell's aides say. I have this referenced in my Substack article on Ghislaine Maxwell. One of her, she would have these live-in male aides. And one of them talked extensively. And he said that he's from Sweden. I don't remember exactly. He has a very Swedish name. And he said that she would bring young, good-looking, smart men from Sweden every 3 months on tourist visas. She would rotate them. Only from Sweden. Blonde, good-looking, intelligent aides. And he said, the creepy thing was when I was living there and doing all this stuff for her, I would notice that, like, if my hair was on my pillow or, like, there was hair my hair was in the bathroom or something, it would be gone. Next thing I noticed, it would be gone. And I wasn't the one who cleaned it up. Now, you've seen Gattaca?
I don't think so.
Okay. This is a sci-fi film from the late 1990s. From a single strand of hair, you can clone somebody. And what this Swede was saying was that his hair was being collected from his room by somebody. His DNA was being collected. So it wasn't just the women.
Believe me now? I mean, have I not been writing about this for years? The Epstein system, intelligence, bionetics, and control. What was Epstein really doing? In a nutshell, through power and influence. So number one is there's a few other things I want to just touch on real briefly. I talked about how Epstein was a financial intermediary. This is how we got to start. In the intelligence agencies, he was a financial handler of many big people. This is Mike Benz explaining exactly what I've been saying. The key to Epstein, Bear Stearns put him in the BCCI trades in 1979 as it made millions helping the CIA, Brits, Saudis, and Israel disguise covert cash by clearing $13 billion with BCCI, a CIA money laundering bank. I've been one of the only ones saying this for a long time. Now it's all coming out in truth. See, the secret of the Epstein files is twofold. Number one, it's the system in place currently of how you move illicit money from illegal criminal activities into legitimate business infrastructure. This is why if they release the Epstein files, the whole economic system begins to crumble and collapse because it is mainly integrated into all of it. Liquidity flows, all of this stuff. The crypto industry, it's all based on this inflow of illicit money that's coming in. You start pulling that out and you stop stopping and cutting that off, the system starts to collapse. Everybody becomes implicated. Wall Street becomes implicated. Large financial institutions become implicated. Banks, governments become implicated. Intelligence agencies implicated. This is why you can't release this stuff, because it literally takes down the house when you learn what Epstein was doing. Now, what Epstein was doing on the other side is in the midst of all of this, Epstein learned and heard about certain things that were happening. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was good friends with a guy by the name of Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau had a lifelong ambition about finding the hidden continent of Atlantis. I shit you not. The hidden continent of Atlantis. And he went to look for the hidden continent of Atlantis multiple different times. And who did he take? Robert Maxwell. This is where Ghislaine Maxwell learned to dive. This is where she learned to pilot submarines and helicopters with Jacques Cousteau. When she met Jeffrey Epstein, who had the means, the power, and the financial resources to do such, who was affiliated directly with her father, who worked with the same back channels, because Robert Maxwell was the same type of intermediary. He was one of the people who, through illicit crime activities, was laundering money into legitimate business activities. Epstein was directly connected with this. He meets Ghislaine. Ghislaine, basically right after the death of her father, sees that, hey, potentially I'm compromised or they're going to come after me next. I have to get with somebody who's gotten the in, gets with Epstein. Epstein goes out there and him and Ghislaine begin researching on what is really going on. And it was the acquirement of an ancient technology on this planet. What do I mean by that? Buried beneath the whole world, whether it's Antarctica, the Arctic, Greenland, throughout the United States of America, off the coastal territories of North America, Japan, China, everywhere, is remnants of a hidden civilization. In the remnants of this hidden civilization are massive amounts of advanced technology. And for the last 60 years, it has been no holds barred from everybody else out there to go out there and acquire as much of this technology as humanly possible, get it into the laboratory, reverse engineer it, and control it for the future. And Epstein and Maxwell were doing exactly this. They petitioned the Cuban government to go out there and dive off the coast of Cuba to look at the ruins of part of this ancient civilization that is buried under the water off of the coast of Cuba. And guess what? They found some shit. Now, here's the one thing. The deep state, as Giorgiani was just saying, the deep state has access to this. The deep state does not have access to this technology. They utilize people like Epstein and funded a lot of these operations to have them go out there and get access to these types of technologies. Epstein found something, and he didn't share it, and they wanted it. This is why Ghislaine is still in jail and why Epstein's dead or in witness protection. They found something. And something of immense power. And they kept it for themselves. And that ultimately fucked them in the long run. Do I have more information on that? I do. Give it some time. You'll see what I'm talking about. But all of this is interconnected. All of the resource war that we're talking about, Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, the destruction of the old guard, all of this is interconnected. The trickle-down disclosure that I've talked about for the longest time of how the Trump administration is slowly releasing technology to the masses. Yes, this is very, very, very real. We are about to take a technological leap in the world. What do I mean by that? My assessment is this. Over the course of the next 10 years, new technological infrastructure, development, and discoveries are going to be made that are going to advance humanity 500 years in a 10-year time frame. We'll see if I'm right, but this is what I'm getting, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I understand. And that 10 years ago, it was a very concerted deep state infrastructure that was getting these things out of the clandestine projects, the SAP programs. And their objective was to get this technology into commercialization, centralize it, enslave humanity with that technology, and they rise up as technological gods. The Trump administration, Trump, Putin, all these guys said, fuck that. We're going to bring all that technology out there and we're going to give it to mankind. We're going to let everybody use it. Yeah, it's going to be commercialized, but everybody's going to have access to it, and we're not going to enslave humanity with it. That's where we're headed right now. So Elaine Dagon said, Epstein Maxwell raped, human trafficking, organ harvesting, blood, and ate humans at Epstein Island. You know, I've thought the same thing for years because that's kind of what Follow the Cabal would teach you. Follow the Cabal, by the way, is I should do a whole breakdown of that series because there's a lot of bullshit in it. A lot of stuff that she just gets wrong. But in the context of what you're talking about there, adrenochrome and all of that, there is no associative evidence that actually points to Epstein and that. Clinton, Hillary, yes. Podesta, absolutely. Epstein, not so much. Now, do I believe that Epstein was procuring children for advanced projects in organ trafficking? Yes, I do. But I don't think that that was like primary methodology of business, if that makes sense. What else do we got? Not much, really. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this right here. But there's going to be more on this, guys. We're definitely going to talk more on this here in the future. There's a lot more coming out about this, but we are on the verge of a massive technological advancement to the likes we've never seen before in history. So right now on Rumble, if you're seeing this, the CharlieKirksGuide.com. Parents, let's talk about something truly important. At a time when truth, faith, and free speech were under attack, there was one young leader who stood up and said, prove me wrong. That leader was Charlie Kirk, and his message inspired an entire generation. That's why the Kids Guide team created the Kids Guide to Charlie Kirk to help you share the values he lived by: faith, family, independent thinking, and the courage to stand for truth. He wasn't afraid to say what others were scared to say out loud. His message was simple. Don't silence people. Debate them. Prove me wrong. That spirit of open conversation and respect is something our country desperately needs again. Inside the Kid's Guide to Charlie Kirk, your kids will follow Charlie growing up in a Christian household. They'll learn how he spoke up as a teenager, challenged one-sided narratives in school, and launched Turning Point USA from a single card table on a college campus, eventually inspiring millions nationwide. The Kid's Guide to Charlie Kirk presents Charlie not as a flawless figure, but as someone who believed deeply in conversation, critical thinking, and the idea that America have far more in common than what divides us. If you want your kids to grow up with a strong, unwavering value, start with the Kid's Guide to Charlie Kirk. Visit charliekirkguide.com to order your copy today and give your children the truth and role model who lived it. That's charliekirkguide.com. All right. And I just saw something come in. And breaking news right here. Are you ready for this one? John Brennan's lawyers confirm he is the target of a Florida grand jury probe. And they have put a motion in to immediately stop it. And the judge, I believe, has denied that. We could see a Christmas indictment of John Brennan. I'm telling you. I think it's coming. Lexi Lou, $5 Rumble rant on Rumble. Thank you so much, Lexi Lou. Appreciate that. And I'm going through any other Rumble rants that might have came in. I'm one great FL, $10 Rumble rant on Rumble. Merry Christmas, Josh. You've been my go-to channel for the most important detailed news that Americans need to know, minus mainstream media spin. Your incredible research analysis is A++. Buy inversion chair back. I got my inversion chair right in my garage. I'm actually pulling it down tonight. I don't know if people see me slouching the last few weeks on the shows because my back is all jacked. So appreciate you for noticing that. But I do have an inversion chair, and I'm going to pull it out right after this. Hebsky, Mark, thank you so much. $50 Rumble rant, 10x Snowball. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Josh, for all the great insight. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you guys. All right, guys, I appreciate all of you. You guys are absolutely amazing. And I'm going to leave you with this great song, and you can find this at redpillsmusic.com. And I'm going to be back with you tomorrow night. So we will definitely be doing a show tomorrow night. Potentially a show on Christmas Eve. I will let you know. Depends if I get my Christmas shopping done or not, or my Christmas present wrapping. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you guys next time. Good night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!